For ghosting my parents after they tripled my rent to support my jobless brother? My name is Natalie. I am 30 years old and all of this happened a little over a year ago. For 8 years I lived in an apartment that to my parents never stopped being theirs, even though I paid for it every month and had built my entire routine there. That is how it goes sometimes. You build a life with your work, you fill a space with your things, your habits, your effort, and yet there is always someone ready to remind you that, according to them, none of it truly belongs to you. When I finished my degree, I felt like my path was already clear. I had studied pharmaceutical chemistry on a scholarship. I had torn myself between classes and part-time jobs since I was 16, and upon graduating, I already had a secured position at a pharmaceutical lab in the Chandler area. It was not my dream job, but it was a serious, stable job with benefits, a fixed schedule, and real opportunities for growth. At that time, my parents had an empty apartment in Mesa. They lived in a 2-story house in Gilbert, on the other side of the city, and that apartment had been closed up for a while. My mom told me one day, "If you want, you can go live there." I thought she was offering it to me as support to start out on my own. Then she finished the sentence. "But you are going to pay us $900 a month." $900. Yes, it bothered me. I am not going to pretend it did not. I was their daughter, the daughter who actually had followed the rules, the one who actually had made an effort, the one who actually understood what it costs to earn money, because they raised me that way, and yet they still wanted to charge me rent. Meanwhile, my brother Dylan, who was 2 years younger than me, had not worked a serious job a single day of his adolescence. He always lived off whatever my parents gave him. But even with all of that, $900 was still much less than what it cost to rent something in that area. So I accepted. I started working at the lab, moved in, and from the very first month I transferred the money to my mom's account right on time without fail. For 8 years I was not late a single time. The detail is that when I moved in, the apartment was in pretty basic condition. The furniture was old, the appliances were already very worn out, the living room looked sad, the refrigerator seemed from another era, and nothing felt truly mine. So I started fixing it up little by little. I bought a new couch, a decent television, replaced the fridge, set up a full bedroom set, a dining table, curtains, dinnerware, a better coffee maker, and an entertainment center for the living room. When the washing machine broke down, I bought another one. I also painted the walls and slowly turned that place into a space where I was genuinely glad to live. I discussed every purchase with my mom beforehand. Can I change the coffee table? Yes, just make sure it matches. Can I paint the bedroom? Yes, but in neutral colors. I paid for everything, I chose everything, but always with that feeling that I needed permission, because in the end, they were still someone else's walls. Meanwhile, I kept saving. I always knew I could not stay in a rented place my whole life, even if it was cheap. My goal was to save up for a down payment on a house, a real one, one that would actually be mine. So every month I set money aside, even if it was just a little, and kept saving it. The problem was that every time I went to eat at my parents' house, they would drop comments reminding me where I stood. How is our apartment doing? Have you fixed anything else in our apartment? They never said your apartment, not even the apartment, always ours, as if I were a tenant they were also doing a favor for. Dylan was still living at my parents' house. He was fully grown and still in his same old room. Every now and then he would do odd jobs, things with no consistency, no schedule, no commitment. Nothing lasted for him. My parents let him float by as always. 2 years before everything blew up, things got more complicated. Dylan married Paige. If you ask me what she does, I would tell you she is a content creator for Instagram, though without much success. She records makeup tutorials, simple recipes, product reviews, that kind of thing. She does not have a steady job either. So suddenly it was no longer just my parents and Dylan in that house. Now it was my parents, Dylan, and Paige, and family dinners changed completely. The first time I went over after they got married, Paige had already taken over the atmosphere. She told my mom how to set the table. She asked my dad not to start eating because she had to record first. She moved plates around so they would look prettier. She arranged napkins and even opened the curtain a bit because, according to her, natural light was more flattering. "Wait a second," she would say with her cell phone in hand. "Do not move. I need to get this right for my story." And there we all were, sitting still, watching her take 20 photos of the same plate of red spaghetti and breaded chicken as if it were a professional photo shoot. My parents smiled, nodded, and played along as if all of that were completely normal. I tried to be nice at first. I truly thought it was just a matter of adapting, giving her space, and not causing drama over silly things. But then the ciabatta incident happened. I arrived early to a family meal and saw some ciabattas in the kitchen arranged on a cutting board with pretty napkins, cherry tomatoes on the side, and a drink poured into a glass with ice. I had not eaten breakfast, I was hungry, and since no one told me anything, I grabbed one and took a bite. Paige walked in right at that moment. She stared at me for a few seconds with a furious look that threw me off. "Unbelievable," she told me. "Do not do this to me." I froze. "I am sorry, I thought they were for eating." "They were for a video. It took me 2 hours to get everything ready. How am I supposed to post a shot with a bitten ciabatta now?" I tried to apologize again, but she kept going. She called me selfish, reckless, said I did not understand what creating content entailed, that I did not respect her work, and that because of people like me things never went right for her. She said it in front of my mom, in front of my dad, in front of Dylan, and nobody stopped her. In the end, I left without eating. I got in my car crying and drove back to the apartment with that shame you feel when someone humiliates you and everyone else just watches. Since it was the weekend, the drive across the city was more bearable than usual, but it still felt incredibly long. After that, I started avoiding her as much as I could at family gatherings. I was always polite but distant. She spent most of the meal talking about her followers, her post reach, the brands that would soon be reaching out to her, and how one day she was going to become famous and make a ton of money. I would nod, eat, and stay quiet. It was not my place to burst her bubble. Besides, after the ciabatta incident, I already knew that anything could turn into a scene. Family conversations started revolving around Paige's career and Dylan's new plans to get rich quick. Whether it was selling online now, getting into investing next, or jumping into a business a friend recommended later. Just ideas, nothing solid, nothing serious. Meanwhile, I sat there thinking about my real job, my real responsibilities, my bills, my goals, but hardly anyone asked about my life. Everything was Paige, Dylan, and their next crazy idea. I remember one particularly uncomfortable meal. Paige showed us a post of her breakfast and started explaining the strategy behind the photo, as if she were teaching a class. "I use these hashtags because they are trending a lot this week," she said while swiping on her phone. "And I posted at 9:15 because that is when my audience responds best." My dad nodded seriously. "How smart, Paige." Dylan looked at her with pride. "My wife really knows what she is doing." The worst part was seeing how my parents made life easy for them. They gave them money for groceries, paid their car insurance, and bought them things so she could record better. Once they even gifted her a ring light. Meanwhile, I transferred dollars to them every month and on top of that received lectures about the value of hard work. Still, I stayed quiet, kept paying, kept saving, and kept going to family dinners even though many times I preferred to stay home. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that sooner or later they would have to come down to earth, get stable jobs, and get out of that dynamic. Everything blew up a little over a year ago, on a Saturday morning. I was having a quiet morning. I had already poured myself coffee, and was about to put in a load of laundry when I heard the apartment door open. They did not knock, they did not ring the bell, it just opened. For a second I was horribly scared. I thought someone was breaking in. I walked out of the kitchen and saw my mom coming in with her keys, as if she still had the right to show up without warning. "Natalie, are you there?" She was standing in the living room looking around, visually inspecting the furniture, the tidiness, the decor. She had a weird, critical expression, as if she were looking for something she did not like. "You scared me," I told her. "Why did you not knock?" She did not answer me. She kept looking at the apartment, the couch I had bought, the television, the table, everything. I felt uncomfortable, as if she had come to inspect me. "We need to talk," she finally said. "Sit down." I offered her coffee. She waved it away with her hand. "No, I do not have time. This is serious." We sat in the living room on the couch I had bought with months of savings, and she got straight to the point. "Things have changed. Paige is pregnant." I already knew that. They had announced it 2 weeks prior at a family dinner with as much ceremony as possible. Paige cleared her throat and said, as if she were opening a press conference, "I wanted to officially tell you that I am pregnant." My mom started crying tears of joy. My dad clapped. Dylan looked like he had just won an award. I congratulated them, of course, but even that very day I noticed that Paige was already making plans with the comfort of someone relying on someone else's money. She talked about a getaway before the baby was born, about remodeling the room that used to be mine at my parents' house, about how they were going to need a bigger car, doctor visits, clothes, and a lot of things. My parents nodded to everything. Yes, I know she is pregnant, I told my mom. I was there when they said it. That is great. Then you understand the situation is different now? Paige needs support. There are going to be expenses for baby checkups, for a lot of things. I looked at her, not fully understanding. And what does that have to do with me? My mom crossed her hands over her purse and stared right at me. Starting next month, your rent is going up. It will not be $900 anymore. It is going to be $2,700. I thought I had heard wrong. How much? $2,700. Paige is pregnant and a baby costs money. I just stared at her. $2,700. It was almost triple what I had been giving them and way more than what it cost to rent in the area. An apartment like that, old and without any major upgrades on their end, went for around $1,400 to $1,600. $2,700 was sheer abuse. That is crazy, I told her. Not even the apartments around here cost that much. This is not just rent, she replied. It is your way of helping your family, of supporting your brother. I felt my face get hot. I am not going to pay $2,700 a month. That is absurd. Then she dropped the line with a calmness that chilled me. Then you have to move out. We can find other tenants who will pay what is fair. Normal tenants who understand what a good apartment costs. I stayed silent for a few seconds. My own mother was telling me to my face that either I paid a ridiculous amount to support my brother and his pregnant wife, or I had to leave the place where I had lived for 8 years. All right, I told her. I will move out. When she left, I sat there for a long time without moving. Then I grabbed my computer and started looking for apartments. I had enough savings to cover rent, the deposit, and moving expenses. The money I was keeping for a house down payment was going to have to wait, but I could do it. That same Saturday I found 3 options to visit. On Sunday I made appointments. I loved the second apartment I saw. It was in Chandler. It was still close to my job, and in fact it was more convenient for getting around during the week. It was empty with no furniture or appliances, but that was not a problem because I had bought practically everything in my current apartment. The rent was $1,600 a month. Yes, almost double what I had been paying my parents for years, but much less than the $2,700 they wanted to squeeze out of me. And this time it would actually be my lease, my signature, my space, my rules. I filled out the application right there and left the deposit. The landlord told me that if everything went well, I could move in on Wednesday. Tuesday morning they called to confirm I was approved. I took a personal day at work and started packing. And that was when something became obvious, something I had always known but my family never thought about until the very end. Everything inside the apartment was mine. The couch, the television, the refrigerator, the dining table, the bed, the nightstand, the dresser, the plates, the coffee maker, the washing machine, the curtains, the lamps, everything. The only thing that was not mine was an old wooden table that was already there when I moved in 8 years earlier. So I packed everything I had bought. I rented a U-Haul truck. I loaded boxes, furniture, appliances. I took everything except that old table, and on the table I left a note with 2 words. Good luck. I did not tell my parents that day, I just sent a text to my mom. I moved out. Thanks for everything. She read it. I saw it was delivered. She did not reply. For 2 days nothing happened. My phone was silent. I even thought maybe they had accepted it, that they were going to swallow their anger. And I just focused on settling into the new place, arranging my things, making the space feel like mine from the very first moment. It was a weird but nice feeling. I felt lighter. But on Friday the bombardment started. First my mom, then my dad, then Dylan, one call after another. At first I let them go to voicemail. Then my mom called again and I answered. Natalie, what did you do? I moved out. That is what you told me to do. You took everything? The apartment is empty. I took my things, the things I bought. There was a tense silence and then she blurted out what was really bothering her. We had already found an interested person. We promised them a furnished apartment. A short laugh escaped me, not out of mockery but disbelief. Well, maybe you should have talked to me first. My mom started raising her voice. I want you to bring that furniture back right now, or I am going to talk to a lawyer. That actually made me laugh out loud. Do it. Talk to a lawyer, but think it through first. You are going to have to explain to him why you charged me rent for 8 years without a lease. And I also do not think it is in your best interest to have someone look into how you received that money all this time. The line went dead quiet. After a few seconds, she said to me, with a coldness I still remember perfectly, "You are no longer our daughter." I took a deep breath. If that is how you see it, all right. And I hung up. After that call, things got worse before they calmed down. That same night, Dylan and Paige started sending me incredibly long messages, saying I was selfish, that I was abandoning the family when they needed me most, asking how I could do that with a baby on the way. Paige even sent me voice memos telling me I was jealous, that it hurt me to see she was pregnant, and that I was bothered by her success on social media. Success. She had a little over 9,000 followers, and maybe got a collaboration once in a while that paid her peanuts. But I was not going to get into an argument over that. I was already tired of it all. I did not reply. I blocked all 3 of them on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere as well. I cut ties completely, and against all odds, the following weeks were peaceful. I settled into my new apartment, adapted to my new routine. I started enjoying something I had not felt in a long time. Coming home and knowing that no one was going to remind me it was not mine. For the first time in 8 years, I felt I had a real home. Things started going better at work too. My boss had been saying for a while that I looked ready for a promotion, and I really stepped up my game. I put in the hours, I focused. I delivered important projects. I wanted to prove I was ready. A month after moving, I ran into my cousin Kelsey at the grocery store. Kelsey always finds out everything, so I knew immediately she had news. She looked from side to side as if someone might overhear us. "Your mom is telling the whole family you took furniture that, according to her, belonged to them." I laughed. Of course. And what else is she saying? That you are ungrateful, that you are selfish, that you think too highly of yourself. But honestly, Natalie, almost everyone thinks what they did to you was really wrong. Wanting you to pay for Dylan's baby expenses. That is not right. You have no idea the relief I felt hearing that. Not because I needed approval, but because I was so sick of being painted as the villain. "And how are they doing?" I asked her. Kelsey twisted her mouth. "Not very well. They cannot find anyone to rent the apartment for what they wanted. They already lowered the price twice, and Paige and your mom spend all their time fighting." Fighting over what? Over everything. Paige wants to move into the apartment now that it is empty, but your parents will not let her because then they cannot rent it out. She was counting on the money you were going to give them to help with the baby. I am not going to lie. I felt a little satisfaction hearing that their plan was not working. And Dylan, still without a job. Right now he has this idea to start a cryptocurrency podcast. Of course. 6 months went by. Yes, I got the promotion. I moved up a position, they gave me a 15% raise, and I started saving hard again. I began rebuilding that fund for my house down payment. Life finally felt in order. Then, one afternoon leaving work, I saw Dylan leaning against my car. I never changed jobs, so I guess that is why he decided to look for me there. For a moment I thought about walking right past him, but he had already seen me. "Natalie, please wait. Can we talk? Even if it is just at the coffee shop across the street." I did not want to, but I also felt curious. We crossed the street in silence and went in. I ordered a coffee. They asked him what he wanted and he said nothing. "I cannot afford it right now," he mumbled. We sat at a corner table. He looked awful. Messy hair, wrinkled clothes, bags under his eyes, a tired look. "I need your help," he told me. "Paige and I cannot stand living with my parents anymore. With the baby it is even worse. We need our own place." "Then get jobs and leave," I answered. "That is what most adults do. It is not that easy, right?" "Why?" "Because I have a baby now. I cannot just take any job just like that." I stared straight at him. "Dylan, you have never lasted more than 3 months at any job. This did not start with the baby." He turned red. "That is not true." Name one. Just one where you lasted more than 3 months. He could not. We both knew it. He sighed and changed his tone. I know I have made mistakes, but I am really trying to do things better. I have a really good idea. I am putting together a podcast about cryptocurrencies and I think it could take off. I had to hold back a laugh. There are thousands of podcasts about that. What makes yours different? I am just starting, but I have really good ideas. There he was again, the same old Dylan. Big dreams, zero plan, zero consistency. And what do you want from me? A loan. Just to get started. I will pay you back as soon as money starts coming in. I need about $7,000 for rent, the deposit, some basic things. $7,000 to fund another fantasy that he was never going to pay me back for. No. Natalie, please. You are my sister. And you are an adult. Get a job. Paige is desperate. She and my mom fight every day. The baby needs stability. Then you give him stability, right? He started raising his voice. You make good money. You already got promoted. Yes, you could help us if you wanted to. A few people turned to look at us. I stood up. I am leaving and do not look for me again. Natalie. Wait. But I was already walking out. That night Kelsey called me to tell me what happened afterward. Dylan got home saying you refused to help him. And your mom is furious. She is going around telling everyone you have no heart. What else is new? Yeah, but let me tell you something, things over there are really bad now. Yesterday Paige and your mom had a major argument. Paige said she was going to take the baby and leave. That is no longer my business. I know. I just thought you should know. Dylan looks desperate. When I hung up I felt a little guilty. Not enough to give him money, but enough to ask myself for a moment if I was being too harsh. Then I remembered all the years I did deliver while he bounced from idea to idea and always had my parents' safety net underneath. No, I had no reason to fix his life. Not anymore. That was a year ago. During that year, nothing improved in that house. Since I told him no, Dylan tried several things to make quick money. The cryptocurrency podcast lasted about 6 weeks. Then he started moving money around on an investment app using my parents' money, and lost almost everything. After that, he got into selling catalog supplements with business promises, and that did not last long either. Paige kept up with Instagram, but motherhood was not compatible with the life she imagined. The baby cried when she wanted to record, would not sleep when she wanted to edit. The house was always a mess, and she spent all her time complaining that she did not have time to create content like before. The arguments at my parents' house got so bad that my dad ended up putting a lock on his bedroom door. Kelsey told me that the previous month Paige made a scene because my mom refused to watch the baby while she went to an influencer meetup. It is not my obligation to take care of your child, my mom told her. When Kelsey told me, I just thought of the irony. My mom, the same woman who charged me rent for an empty apartment, was now living with 3 people and a baby who contributed nothing. In the end, they did manage to rent the apartment, but not how they wanted. After dropping the price several times, they found someone who agreed to pay $1,350 a month but furnished. Since I had taken everything, my parents had to buy cheap things to halfway furnish it. Between that, the maintenance fees and everything else, they were barely breaking even. Meanwhile, my life kept getting better. The promotion brought me responsibilities that I honestly enjoy. They put me on much more interesting research projects, and my boss hinted that if I keep this up, another promotion could come next year. I have been saving with discipline and I already started looking at house options. With my current salary and what I have saved up, by spring I should be able to put down a decent down payment. I also started dating someone. His name is Sean, he is an engineer, and we met at an industry convention. He has been very understanding about everything with my family. The first time I told him the whole story properly, he stayed silent and then said, "You are the responsible one. They should be proud of you, not use you as an ATM." And hearing that from an outsider, from someone who sees things without all the emotional fog of a family, was really powerful because he was right. A few weeks ago, Kelsey called me again with more news. Dylan and Paige had a horrible argument again. Paige wants to move into the apartment where you used to be because she says your parents are not getting enough from the rent, but your parents will not let her because they need that money, even if it is a little. My dad is 68 years old. The fact that he was considering looking for a part-time job to bear the burden of 3 adults and a baby in his house seemed incredibly sad to me. And what did Paige say? I asked. That if they do not let her move in with the baby, she is going to leave Dylan. And where to if she has no money? Your mom told her the exact same thing. Paige answered that she would figure it out, maybe with her sister. I almost felt sorry for Dylan. Almost. But then I remembered he was still a grown man who had never taken charge of his own life. Kelsey lowered her voice before hanging up. Oh, and one more thing, your mom asked me if I had your new address. And what did you tell her? That I did not, but she is asking around. Let her ask all she wants. Kelsey was right. A few days later, my mom showed up at my work. I was walking out of the building when I saw her standing near the entrance. I thought about turning around, but she had already seen me. Natalie, we need to talk. Just 5 minutes. I took a good look at her. She looked more tired, older, as if several years had hit her all at once over that last year. 5 minutes, I told her. We went to a nearby bench. She sat down. I remained standing. I know things got out of control, she began. But you are still my daughter. I could not help my response. How curious. The last time we spoke you told me I wasn't anymore. I was angry. I did not mean it. What do you want, Mom? She looked down for a moment and then told me, I want the family to be united again. It is not good for us to be like this. Then tell Dylan to get a job instead of coming to ask me for money. He is trying, Natalie. He is struggling. He has been struggling for far too many years. She stayed quiet. Then, in a lower voice, she said something that at least sounded closer to an admission. I know I should not have asked you for that. I know we burdened you with things that were not your responsibility. I looked at her but said nothing. We miss you at dinners, she said next. I shook my head. No, you miss having someone to pay and stay quiet. You miss the person who bankrolled without protesting while listening to Paige talk about followers. That is not fair. No, tell me, when was the last time you truly asked me about my work, about my life, about what I want? Tell me. When was the last time you felt proud of something I achieved, and told me without bringing Dylan into the conversation? She did not answer. I went on. I have been doing very well at work. I am about to buy a house. I am good, I am at peace. And none of you ever really found out because you have always been too busy solving Dylan's life. We have always been proud of you, she said in a low voice. Honestly, it has not shown. I took a step toward my car. Natalie, please, she said to me. I stopped and turned around one more time. When Dylan gets a real job and starts acting like an adult, maybe we can talk. Until that happens, I am no longer going to be the family's ATM. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I have not heard anything from any of them. I know there will be people who think I was too harsh, that I should have helped for my nephew's sake, that family is family, that one should forgive and move on, but the truth is different. I spent 8 years being the responsible daughter while watching Dylan get forgiven for everything. I spent 8 years paying rent while he lived for free. I spent 8 years hearing that nothing I had was mine, while they gave him everything asking nothing in return. 8 years working, saving, growing, and yet still occupying the role of the useful daughter, not the valued daughter. I do not want that life anymore. Now I have my own space, my own goals, my own plans. I have a job, stability, peace, and a future that finally feels possible. And if to my family that makes me selfish, then so be it, because for the first time in a long time I am choosing myself. Comment. Hey friends, this story really stayed with me long after I finished reading it. I keep thinking about how important it is to hold on to our self-respect, even when family makes it hard. Setting clear boundaries isn't selfish. It's one of the most loving things we can do for ourselves. Real kindness includes being responsible for our own peace instead of carrying everyone else's load. Sometimes choosing calm means stepping back from situations that keep hurting us. I've learned that true healing often begins the moment we stop fixing things that aren't ours to fix. You deserve relationships that see your effort and meet you with the same care you give. Putting yourself first isn't giving up on family. It's learning to show up as a healthier version of yourself. I hope this reminds you to check in with your own heart today and ask what you truly need. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See See you in the upcoming stories.